Hi, I'm Tashana. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to speak to the woman who is going through a tough season right now and your faith is starting to waver. A lot of times when we are deep in our circumstances, it can be easy for doubt and fear to settle in, especially if we are fixated on our environment and our circumstances and not fixated on God. So what better biblical story to depict this than the story of Jesus walking on water and saving Peter from sinking? So I have my study Bible right here, and we're going to be in Matthew 14, and I'm going to start at verse 24. So it says, "Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, 'It's a ghost.' But Jesus spoke to them at once. 'Don't be afraid,' he said. 'Take courage, I am here.' Then Peter called to him, 'Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water.' 'Yes, come,' Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water towards Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. 'Save me, Lord,' he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. 'You have so little faith,' Jesus said. 'Why did you doubt me?' When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshipped him. 'You really are the Son of God,' they exclaimed." So when reading the story about Jesus walking on the water, the first thing that stuck out to me was that at first Peter had great faith, and when Jesus said, "Come to me," he was on the water, he was walking. It wasn't until Peter looked around and he saw the waves and he saw the chaos around him that his faith started to waver. And what this made me realize was that, although it is so difficult to do in the moment, we have to really push through and make the conscious effort to keep our eyes on Jesus. Because in my experience, when I start overthinking about whatever I got going on, then I start spiraling. Then I start doubting. Then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I didn't hear God clearly. Well, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe this isn't going to happen for me. And I start to question everything, and I start to panic in my mind because I'm paying so much attention to my circumstance and not paying enough attention to the faithfulness of God. See, it's not just about remembering who God is, but it's also about remembering what he's done. Because if you look at verse 31 says, Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" And I've read the scripture so many times, but recently when I read this, I was thinking to myself, up until this point, Peter had seen Jesus perform so many miracles. Peter's seen him heal the sick. He's seen him cast out demons. Literally right before this storm, Jesus had took 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he fed over 5,000 people. He took something that would have seemed as though it would be impossible to do, and he multiplied it, and he made it possible. And so it's crazy that even though Peter had witnessed all these things, he still allowed his circumstances, his environment to cause him to doubt Jesus despite the track record of Jesus. And so when Jesus said, "Why did you doubt me?" I felt that because I was like, why do we doubt him? I guess it's human nature. But we have seen what Jesus can do. He has come through for us time and time again. But when the waves get high and life gets crazy, we still get scared. And that's why I had to title this video, "If God did it before, he will do it again." Because God has gone above and beyond for me. Everything that I was ever worried about, it got handled somehow, some way. And I may have not gotten everything that I've wanted, but God has always provided for everything that I have needed. Sometimes when I'm going through things, I can become so focused on what I'm going through that I can forget everything that he's brought me through. I can imagine Jesus looking at us "Why do y'all doubt me? Y'all know I'm going to come through for y'all. Y'all know this." I have to remind myself that whenever I'm facing opposition or I'm waiting on God to do a thing in my life, I can reassure myself that if he did it before, he'll do it again. I have seen evidence of him moving, and it may have not even just been in my life, but I've seen evidence of him moving in somebody else's life. I have seen evidence of his goodness. I have seen evidence of his blessings. I have seen evidence of his faithfulness. The thing that I love about the scripture is that when Peter started to sink, he immediately said, "Save me, Lord." Even though his faith was wavering, he still knew how to call on God. And the study Bible goes into detail about this specific scripture, and it says, when Peter's faith faltered, he reached out to Christ, the only one who could help. He was afraid, but he still looked to Christ. When you are apprehensive about the troubles around you and doubt Christ's presence or ability to help, remember that he is always with you and is the only one who can really help. And what this taught me was, like, you may have moments where you start to feel kind of shaky. And you're like, God, where are you? But in the midst of you feeling that, that is the perfect time for you to call out to God. For you to say, okay, like, I feel like I'm knee deep in this right now. Like, I need your help. I need you to grab me. I need you to pull me out. I need you to redirect me. This is not just a story about Peter wavering in faith. This is also a story about us being able to have reassurance that God will come through for us. I just want to encourage you to remember what God has promised. He said in verse 27, "Don't be afraid, take courage, I am here." That is something that we can continue to remind ourselves of in the midst of our troubles. Affirming ourselves with his word and constantly talking to him, constantly praying and communicating with him is how we're going to be able to stay fixated on God and not fixated on our circumstances. So I hope that this video was helpful to somebody. Let me know what you think of Matthew 14 in the comments. If there are any scriptures or any topics that you want me to talk about here on this channel, please leave them in the comments below. If you are new here, I make faith-based content where we focus on kingdom principles straight from the Bible, self-growth, and also financial stewardship. So if you like this video, I hope that you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.